And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet that knows that the only reason Donald Trump falls asleep in cabinet meetings is because he's anti-woke.
And we know that because we are doctors.
But not doctors.
I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And on this week's episode, we'll be looking at the attacks in Northern Ireland and all the things around that. We'll also be looking at the resignation of the Secretary of State for Defense, John Healey.
Turning our attention to the international situation, we'll be talking about Groundhog's Day. Sorry, I meant to say the new peace deal that's coming down the pike about the Strait of Hormuz.
Any minute now. And in the U.S., we'll be looking at a number of things. Of course, we'll be talking about the World Cup chaos that has been started by the Trump administration. The New York Times story, if you don't know, you will know soon. SpaceX IPO, which makes Elon Musk a trillionaire. The reflecting pool saga, which we thought was going to sort everything out, but didn't. And then we're going to end with quite a lot of good news. All that on Doctors Not Doctors, starting right now. Patrick.
Chris.
So, been a bit of a tumultuous week here in the UK. Not here in Great Britain, but on the island of Ireland. In the northern part of it, it was another week of in the UK. It was another week of an attack and then a response that was incredibly. You knew it was going to happen no matter what. But yeah, it's been another rough week for the regular folk out here.
Yeah. So once again, we had quite a large number of protests. We had people out in the streets. We had more rioting. And once again, we also appear to have had the ultra-right of the political spectrum trying to make as much hay as they can, even to the point of encouraging and celebrating violence against innocent people. So it's a real great week for them, and not so much for people who don't like being burned out of their homes.
Yeah. So this week, a video came to light, I believe, on Monday of a person who worked in the NHS who was attacked by. I'm making sure you get this right. I believe the person was Sudanese.
Sudanese, yeah.
Yes. There was a Sudanese asylum seeker that I believe had entered the UK via Ireland, having been, I believe, gotten asylum in the UK from one Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman, who are now, of course, very large members of Reform. The person had basically attacked a person in the street, took a knife to their face. The victim has lost their eye, and but people basically ran over and saved this person's life and tackled the assailant and basically got that person alive down. And that person's been arrested and charged with the crime. Attempted murder, I believe.
Absolutely attempted murder.
Attempted murder.
Yeah, like there's really I don't think that should be a very hard thing for them to prove in a court of law. You know, when you're stabbing someone in the eye repeatedly, you're intending to do very serious physical damage, and you probably are perfectly okay with them dying. Like I don't think there's any way that I don't envy the defense attorney who has to argue something different there. So but this is the thing, right? This could have been a story of a man is being attacked in the middle of the street. Passersby rush in to help. The offender is seized and taken, and justice is in the process of being done. This could have been a story about solidarity, people coming together, and brave witnesses who decided to intervene.
Heroism.
And instead of that, Chris, what we got is a story of the usual gang of fascists and thugs deciding, well, this proves that crime is bad, but only when it's committed by someone who is not white. And the end result was that you once again had a recrudescence of the kinds of violence and arson attacks that we saw, not just in Southampton last week, but also in Northern Ireland last year as well. So, I mean, it's weird because there's stories coming in from the rioting that followed the attack, right? And this involved things like, going after the flats of immigrants, going after, people who were completely innocent, even people who work for the NHS, right, going after homes containing women and children. You have masked men breaking into homes. You have people fleeing their homes and having their homes set on fire. Like, this is just so entirely outside the bounds of any kind of, oh, but they have serious issues with, like, and, it's a real political question, and, we shouldn't be so quick to dismiss. No, 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 no. No, this is fascist thuggery. And, like, if you are a law and order kind of person, you cannot look at this and say anything other than this must be condemned and met with the harshest of reactions. I'm getting out my inner fucking Death Wish guy.
Yeah,
like,
no, yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Also, and this is the other thing that really kind of like sets me off about this, is that apparently it's not just like Protestant thugs doing it. They're being joined by Catholic thugs.
Oh, wow.
This is the solution, apparently, to sectarianism in Northern Ireland, is that the thuggish pricks on both sides have finally found something to rally around. Instead of attacking each other, now they'll just attack, innocent women and children because they're fucking thugs. Screw them.
Well, there was also demonstrations and violent demonstrations in Scotland as well, in I believe Glasgow, Edinburgh, and Ayr. Not nearly as large and not nearly as incendiary, but it has been another rough week that was marred by a case or violence against a person, a completely innocent person who didn't deserve anything that had happened, versus a person who has decided that they were going to take it upon themselves to start a race war. I think we need to be a bit more clear about what's happened is that people are calling it a pogrom because
that's about right.
When in Northern Ireland, like basically masked men went down streets where they knew immigrants to be living, kicked in the doors, set fire to their houses, but it also set fire to dumpsters or bins and pushed them into buses. I mean, buses, cars. I mean, a lot of damage was done. And the people who were affected, some of whom were white, didn't have insurance. So the next day, when they were pushed out of their homes and their homes burned down, they were like, oh, we don't have any way to cover this. Everything that we own is gone. It's gone forever. And we're not even who we know you weren't looking for us, but we're the people that you hurt. It's that's kind of an obvious, in addition to the people who were attacked, this is, it's not doing anybody any good, but also it has nothing to do with the actual crime, nor does it have to do with the prevention of crime, because in a lot of these places,
it's crime. They are crime as well.
Like, they've been convinced though. They've been convinced, though, that they are the crusaders protecting the culture, but they're not. They know they're not.
It's fan-fucking-tastic. Like, seriously, like these riots, Chris, I think they really should be understood as simply a way for people who are, fundamentally broken, people who want to commit violence but don't get the chance, right? People for whom, like, when you were growing up, right, did you ever have that thing where kids will ask you, like, okay, if you could, like, steal a candy bar and not get caught, would you do it? And then you have to, like, grapple with, like, am I good because I'm told to be good and I get punished if I'm not good? Or am I good because, no, I don't want to do that because that would be wrong? Like, what's your interior morality?
What interior morality? Where did you grow up? Like, no one's talking about that at my school.
Well, my dad was a Catholic priest, basically. So, like, that was it's a story and a half.
That's a whole story. Wow, you cracked open
so
that.
That's just me then. That's
just you talking about. Right, now, what are the deontological aspects of this? I mean, dude.
All right. Well, either way, these are the kind of people who, if they were asked that as kids, I'm pretty sure it'd be like, no. The only thing that matters is whether I would get caught. So, like, if I could, do horrible things and not get caught, I would do those horrible things. Like, and I think what's going on is that they're presented with a situation where they think they could do horrible things and it's okay. And it's good even.
Well, they've been presented with a situation where they can do horrible things because horrible people are in charge. Now, I wouldn't say that there are horrible people in charge in the United Kingdom right now. I would say that it's in America mostly. And seeing that Trump and MAGA...
Well, Nigel Farage is working on it, Chris. So,
he's working on it, but he is not technically in charge of anything. He is a leader of a political party with 8 MPs. And right now, he's nobody, but he is a very popular public figure. He is not the prime minister. So they are getting, you're getting the ability to say that I can do whatever I want from a person who, frankly, couldn't do anything for you, even if he wanted, and he wouldn't if he could.
Yeah.
And that's always the case. It's always the case with these people who, drum up this hatred, and then when something goes wrong, they are 100 million miles away from you while you are sitting there in the dock wondering, with your ass hanging out like, I was just doing what I was told. Look at any of the J6ers. And yes, I know they just got, they got a pardon from Trump, and they tried to get, all this money from the government. But that took, 5 years before that ever. So from 2021 to 2026, they were just sitting there in jail or with these massive records. So that notwithstanding, there's, I think, another aspect of the story that we need to make sure we understand. There are some things that you would think that people would freak out about and riot about. One of those is the fact that lots of women tend to get murdered in Northern Ireland. Now, some people have called it a femicide epidemic. I
think that would be a problem.
Yeah, I think Claire Hanna from the SDLP, MP from the SDLP, she said it, and others have said it, throughout the week. And this is how I was made aware of this, because it's not really broadcast, but just recently there was the case of Natalie McNally. Natalie McNally was the partner of a person named Stephen McCullough, also from Northern Ireland, and Stephen McCullough was a YouTuber, and so Natalie McNally died, and then Stephen McCullough called the police and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe she's been killed. Like, something's happened. They played the 999 call, and he's like, you got to help me, blah, 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 blah." And then it turns out many years later, after a very long trial, that this guy had set up a pre-recorded stream and premeditated the murder of Natalie McNally, who was carrying his child at the time.
Yep.
And he brutally murdered her. And he has just been found guilty of that, I believe, this week or last week. And the silence you hear in the air, the lack of burning down of all the white guys' houses from streets across the United Kingdom, that is the problem, is that it's obviously has nothing to do with actual crime. You don't care about actually protecting women. What you care about is that, I can finally have a go at the brown people because I can't find a home or something. Of course you have a home. That's where you got your incendiary devices to throw into the houses of these immigrants who are just trying to make a better life here. And finally, one other thing. A while ago now, a person named Sarah Everard was killed, I believe, by a police officer, by a Met police officer. And nobody knew where she was. And it was a huge deal. No riots. And this is the key line from, this kind of riot situation. Nigel Farage at the time said, "We must not allow the tragic murder of a young woman to turn into attacks on men and attacks on the police."
Of course not. Why would you blame an entire group, Chris, for the actions of a single individual? Like, I'm sure he would never do that when oh no, that's literally the thing that he did.
Pure cold rage.
When it came to Southampton. Yeah.
Pure cold rage.
Pure cold rage. And his thugs have responded as he no doubt hoped that they would.
Stand back and stand by.
Here's the thing, man. Like, I'm a minor student of history, in the sense that I minored in history. Can I say that? I'm going to say it. But so I minored in history in university, right?
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah, so I've got the weakest of credentials that you could conceivably have that are still vaguely kind of sort of. I've read at least one book. That's what I'm saying.
And you've been tested on it as well.
Exactly.
Somebody else has agreed that you have at least done a little bit of work in history. That's why you can say it.
There you go. So that's it. That's my bona fides. But the reason I bring this up is that I am reminded of the basically the 100 years of racial terrorism in the United States, from the end of Reconstruction to the passing of the civil rights bills of the 1960s, right?
Yeah.
Like, during this time in the United States, you had basically every week someone was getting lynched publicly, horrifically, violent. Right?
Yeah.
And usually because they were a black person who did a little bit too well, a little bit too successful, and so they had to die. During that time, you had white elites in the South who were very consistent in their messaging. And their messaging was always, Now, obviously, I don't condone such violence, but
Right.
I understand it
Uh,
because the white elites, their plan was very simple. Let their thugs do
yeah.
the damage. Let
Oh,
them
yeah.
do the crimes. You keep your hands clean.
Oh, yeah.
You are careful never to explicitly say hooray for violence.
I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, exactly, right? And it's amazing to see that Nigel Farage apparently has read some of the same history I did, only his response to it was not to say, God damn, that's horrible, and we should be on the lookout to make sure that never happens again. His response is to say, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why it's cyclical. There's a reason why it works because
Yeah.
those same tactics and tropes are passed down,
Mhm.
from, the elite to the next elite to the next elite to the next elite to find
Yeah.
everybody needs brown shirts.
Yeah.
Everybody needs your stormtroopers. Everybody needs somebody to go in there and do the hard work of
Mhm.
beating in heads and potentially getting beat yourself and getting caught being put in jail.
Mhm.
And then maybe we'll get you out if we want to. But like this led to 3 days of unrest in Northern Ireland.
Well,
Like
how are you
this
going to be a
let
fascist without your fascisti, Chris?
yeah.
So,
You
yeah.
need your foot soldiers, and you definitely see the creation of this foot soldier idea, and it happens in the summer for a reason, because people can go outside. We are approaching the solstice, but we're not there yet. So the days are getting longer until I believe the 21st to 20th of June.
Mhm.
So it's just been one thing after another. But I mean, I think I'll just one last thing on this.
Yeah.
Like there were no riots in the United Kingdom. There were no protests. There was no. There were a lot of television programs produced about this, but I was living here, and I think you were living here too when the crimes of Jimmy Savile were put out, were discovered, and it also became knowledge that it was well known for decades what he was doing.
Yeah,
and yet silence, crickets, nothing. Nobody kicked down the doors where the hell he was from and blamed every single person in his town and said everybody who was like Jimmy Savile or looked like Jimmy Savile or lived in his town were like him. It was just that was one guy, and it wasn't just one guy because there was this whole police investigation, and it turned out it was just endemic in the fucking BBC and in like the 1970s and 80s BBC and like British entertainment structure, and yet we didn't say anything, and we just said, "Oh, that's a shame. Oh no, but let's just move on because it's happened and he's dead, and all those other guys, we're dealing with them, but over here, but this is immigrant crime and crime by brown people. That's we need to everybody who is brown and everybody who is an immigrant and everybody else needs to we are a monolith. We all speak with one voice, and when one person does something wrong, we've all done it."
Obviously. And that's the thing. I mean, it's really just the proof that we shouldn't be viewing any of this as like, passions are running high and people are really upset, et cetera, et cetera. What we should look at it as is, no, they're thugs and they want to riot. The only question is when they feel they have the license to do so.
Yeah.
And apparently, Nigel Farage has decided that he is going to use his position to let them know when it's good to riot. And he's going to do that basically whenever there is a crime that happens to be committed by someone who is not white. Like we should see this for what it is. This is a political strategy, and it is toxic to civilization and to democracy.
Yeah,
I think he has utterly disgraced himself forever. I don't see how you can come back from that.
No, he has disgraced himself, but it doesn't matter if he wins.
I suppose
if this is a gambit, right? Yep. If you're able to get these people on your side, you're able to get enough people in the middle to say, yes, if we ban immigrants from coming into the country, then at least that crime wouldn't have happened, right? Despite the fact that 88% of all crime is committed by locals.
Yeah, because they're the ones who are there, Chris.
Yes. That's a super majority of everything that happens in this country are done by people who are here and were born here. Yeah. Right. So, but if he wins, then it doesn't matter because then he can do whatever he wants. So I think with that slight warning, we will move on to the next section, which is the resignation of the Secretary of State for Defense, John Healey, which is there's no better way of putting it, a total gut punch to the prime minister, Keir Starmer.
Do you feel like Starmer's position is somewhat shaky, Chris?
Sugarly peg is what they say here. And I think it's a lot more. I think it's a lot worse than a sugarly peg. I think that, that's it. So for background, John Healey, who was a well-respected member of the House of Commons and also a well-respected Secretary of State for Defense, resigned. What, 2 days ago?
Yeah, just around that.
He resigned, I believe, 2 days ago. And he basically cited an issue. So the UK was trying to figure out how much money they're going to spend on the next amount of armed forces budgets, and it comes out in a review, and basically Healey basically said there's not enough money in that to do what needs to be done, and he wasn't going to preside over that as the defense Secretary of State for Defense. And he said, "Listen, I'm sorry, but this is not good enough. This is a waste of money. Not even a waste of money. It's a waste of time." And basically, the Prime Minister doesn't have the political or even
he doesn't have the will, and
the will.
Yeah, that's right. I think the way he put it was that the Prime Minister can't, and the Chancellor won't put the money forward necessary for the defense of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, he's basically said the Prime Minister and the Treasury have been unable. The Prime Minister has been unable, and the Treasury has been unwilling to commit the resources that the nation needs to defend the country at this time of rising threats. And so he's left along with another MP called Al Cairns, who was the, I believe, an armed forces minister in the defense department here, the defense ministry. Sorry, the defense ministry here. And basically, what's happened is that the rumor is that Healey basically said we need to start making cuts everywhere to start putting more money into the military because we don't know what's coming, but it's likely not going to be good. We have an ongoing war in Ukraine. There's a belief that war, even if it works out for us now, will lead to further wars in the future. There's cyber war there, and we could be looking at the end of the tank era. We're not. I will say it again, disclaimer, we're not military experts, but what we're hearing is that the end of the tank era is happening because we have drones now, and drones are just taking out tanks like that. You heard me snapping. So we are in a different kind of warfare, but we are in more war than we were 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. And so I think there's a few things to sort of unpack here, right? On the one hand, there's the fact that basically since the 1990s, right, since the end of the Cold War, there was this huge relief almost, I think, on the part of most Western governments, the sense of, oh, thank God, we don't have to worry about this massive existential threat of the Soviet Union, coming down the Fulda Gap and et cetera, right? So until that point, until the 1990s, the United Kingdom is spending 4 or 5% of its GDP annually on the military. The United States, all these countries have been spending a lot of money keeping their militaries ready for, the potential for World War III.
Yeah.
Now, none of that was great. And the end of the Cold War meant that a ton of that money can now be redirected. They called it the peace dividend, right?
Yeah.
And that allowed, theoretically, for a huge investment in things like education and, social welfare and programs for, economic development and all sorts of great things. Mostly went to tax cuts, but theoretically, Chris, it could have been this really good thing, right?
Yeah, in theory, sure.
Yeah,
in reality,
and unfortunately, that era very much appears to be over because, Vladimir Putin wants to recreate the Russian Empire. He's no good at doing it, Chris, but he really wants to.
Yeah.
So there's been the extension of hybrid warfare against NATO countries, against the United Kingdom. You've had Russian ships severing internet pipelines, basically.
Internet cables, undersea internet cables, yeah.
There's been a big increase in the danger that the country is facing. I think there's no doubt about that.
It's not just the country, it's the West. I mean, we have an active totalitarian movement in the world. We have countries that are kind of in the middle, but shifting towards them, who maybe at some point in their history were totalitarian or authoritarian. And and we have the West who's trying to still govern by committee, more or less. And you have these other countries that can just do whatever they want, like take Iran, for example. I mean, these people, like the governance of Iran, they don't give a shit about the people that they govern.
Oh, very much not.
It's about maintaining their own state. It's the same with
Yeah.
any other totalitarian state. The state needs to protect itself. The people are just meat fuel to keep the thing going.
Yeah.
And so, what these people, the Secretary of State, former Secretary of State John Healey and Carnes were saying is just like, we need to prepare ourselves for the future. But what he was trying to say is as well is like, we need to cut everywhere to do it. And that is basically
Right.
political. I mean, given where the prime minister is, and they were talking about this from January, it's called the Defense Investment Plan.
Yep.
And I mean, they need, I think, like 15 billion, maybe something like even more than that pounds to like kind of redo or enhance the armed forces budget. And in order to do that, I mean, it's a hard sell when you don't have a visible enemy to say, yeah, you're going to have to, there'll be fewer doctors, there's going to be fewer teachers, there's going to be fewer schools, nurses, buses, because your internet might slow down sometimes, or, you know, a hereto have never seen drone attack, you know, might attack a city or come across Europe. Oh, and like we might have a war, which we haven't had in like 60, 70 years. It's hard to sell that to the populace. And Keir Starmer is not the person to sell it.
No, he really isn't. Like, yeah. And this is the thing. I feel for the guy. Right? Because on the one hand, we do have a real problem in this country of, like we've been underinvesting in our social services, and that has led to significant political and social problems in the United Kingdom. Like, one of the reasons why you can have these massive fucking riots happening is precisely because you've had like the degradation basically of like you've had the degradation of like the British economy for the last like 30 years, you know.
Yeah, no,
well,
absolutely.
30 years is probably a bit much, but yeah, so like the Britain has had this problem of slow economic growth. We've had this problem of a lack of increase in productivity. We've been falling behind. We have seen huge swaths of the country basically just sort of being left to their own devices when it comes to finding jobs. And now it's really hard to find jobs. So you've got large numbers of people who are on benefits, not because they don't want to work, but because there's no jobs for them to do. Like, this is clearly bad. This is clearly not a great situation, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is, to deal with that, you're going to need a lot of money. You're going to need the government to spend a lot of money on programs. You're going to have industrial policy. You're going to have like, there's a lot of money that's necessary to fix things. And the problem is, of course, that we've been spending a lot of money on things like tax cuts for the uber wealthy.
Yeah.
We've seen a massive amount of wealth being concentrated in the hands of a very small number of people. You've seen underinvestment in infrastructure as well. You've seen underinvestment in the military. And now we're in a situation where, because the economy hasn't been growing, it's like we no longer have the money we need to be able to do everything that we need to do. And that is a huge, huge problem. Yeah. So I understand Rachel Reeves being like, look, we can't afford to take more money from, healthcare, from social programs, from all the rest of it. But at the same time, we do need to be able to defend ourselves. Like, there is real danger out there. And also at the same time, we really need to do something to fix the economy so we could start growing again.
That's three same times. That's three same times. Yeah.
Right. Like, the problem is, we need an economist with three hands, because he can say on the one hand, on the other hand, and on this third hand, and they'll actually have a hand to show. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is nasty. And the worst part is, I don't see anybody in the political arena who seems to have really thought about, here's what the problems are. Here's what we could do to fix it. Here's a plan, you guys. What do you say we try to fix this by doing this plan, right? And maybe we can argue about the plan.
Yeah, but
something.
The problem is that, to economic growth plans, usually you have to get them past the people who would be punished by them, which would be the people who are benefiting from the current economic plan. Right. And in the UK, the main issue about growth, in my personal opinion, is that we live in the black hole, the dark star of the UK, which is London. London takes in everyone from all over the UK, and then a few leave every once in a while. A long time ago, I just looked into some of the statistics, and something like 25% of the country lives within 2 hours of the city, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No other America's not even like that. A lot of Americans live in New York and they live in the East and Northeast and stuff, but it is not to the point where almost all Americans or a quarter of Americans or whatever. And that's in that country. And this is, I do a lot of comparison here with like America, maybe Switzerland, maybe Germany, some other countries. And you're just like, you really need to have a place or that more than one place in your country. More than one place in your country that has that can generate money. In England, it is London, right?
Yeah.
But over the past couple of years, some other countries like Manchester, where Andy Burnham is mayor, they have had some quite significant economic growth because they're able to have more control over their own economic policies. Not a lot of it, and this is probably the biggest issue with the UK. It's a centralized economy. Right. All of the money comes into a big pot in London, and then London decides where that money goes. And if you live in Shropshire, or if you live in Aberdeen, or you live somewhere else, you can keep a portion of that money, but it's not a majority of that money. Even every council, like every little city that people live in, that they don't raise a majority of their own money. So like they still are reliant on the government. So when the government needs to make a deal or needs to do something that is harmful to those people, they can't then say, F off, we'll do our own thing and you can keep your money. Instead, they're like, we need that money. And then when things go wrong, and like so many councils around the UK are going bankrupt because they have issues with their pensions, they have issues with the investments that they've made, they have issues, they just have to pay people, or they've had like huge settlements they need to make. And there's been no plan for decades, probably half a century, of how to make different parts of the UK economically distinct from London. And therefore, if you can't do that, there's no reason for somebody to move to like York, right? There's no reason for somebody to move to Manchester, whatever. There is a reason, and I'm not just saying this because I work for the S&P, Westminster Group. There are reasons to move to like Edinburgh. There are reasons to move to Glasgow. But it's really hard to compel somebody to, if you have a choice of where to live in the UK and you don't really have a job in any part of it, it's hard to say move to Milton Keynes versus move to London.
That's the thing. Like any choice to move somewhere other than London, in England at the very least, is going to be governed by, things like family. It's going to be governed by things like, I am choosing where to live and I don't have to worry about work. If you're concerned about like getting a job and you don't already have a place in the local economy, London is basically where you go, right? And I think you're right that a big part of the problem is that there hasn't been a sort of attempt to really create alternative sources of like economic gravity inside of the United Kingdom.
Which did exist. Those did exist back in the Empire, in the Imperial days. Cardiff, Liverpool, Glasgow, Manchester, all the big cities that you've heard of, they were economic gravimetric centers, but that was simply because of the Ponzi scheme of empire, right? So you're just sucking out the resources from like Kenya or something, or Nigeria, and then bringing it back to the UK or India, and bring it back to the UK, and then you're able to distribute that wealth to all the lairds and the lords and the ladies in the land. Once that ended,
it's back to the empire, of course, because industrialization by keeping a massive market for yourself.
Exactly.
And also, to be fair, the rest of the world, Britain was a major exporter for a long time. But this is kind of the thing, right? Like the shift away from an industrialized economy to the service economy, that has led to this massive centralization in finance, real estate, and like sort of these kind of all these things that ended up being centered in the city of London and Canary Wharf, that ended up being centered in the southeast of the country. And I don't think that the answer is to go back to manufacturing simply because there's just not that many jobs in manufacturing. The United States, for example, has way fewer workers in manufacturing than it like has had since it industrialized, right?
But we still, but America's still a massive manufacturer.
We produce way the hell more in the United States in manufacturing than we ever have before. And it's because automation, you've had like this huge shift, and there's no undoing that. Now, I don't think you should try to undo it, like opening up the coal mines again is not going to help.
What are you going to pay them as well? Like,
well, that's the thing. Coal is
you can't pay them like 1850s wages.
Right.
Like
So
they're going to want $100,000 to be going down there to breathe in the black lung.
yeah, but also coal is just too fucking expensive. Like it's not economically viable, right? So I don't know. I think there has to be a big plan to sort of deal with things. And I think a big part of that, honestly, is just going to be dealing with the fact that energy is really expensive in Britain. And that means that any kind of production that requires energy is really expensive in Britain. And so until you start solving that problem, and I have my thoughts on how to do that.
Which we will cover later.
Which we'll cover later. I think we're gonna keep being in this nasty situation in Britain. Someone who is smart and in government needs to start thinking about this right the hell away, and they need to get someone in charge who can put forward a plan and actually sell it. Maybe Burnham's that guy, or maybe he can become that guy. Maybe he can have greatness thrust upon him. Fingers crossed.
Who knows? But we are going to think about that while we take a break, and then we'll be right back with our section on the international section.
Woohoo.
All right. We'll see you in a minute. And we're back.
It's time to turn our attention towards the Strait of Hormuz, Chris. I know. We almost never think about the Strait of Hormuz.
Where is that again?
Yeah, I think it's near. I think it's near Iran. I'm going to say Iran.
Look, it's in the Middle East.
Nothing's happening like there. Out of that, thin little waterway where 1/5 of the world's gas goes through. It's fine. It's fine.
I honestly, I heard that the war was over, so I didn't. I thought we just have to stop caring about it. Because
to be fair, I also heard the war was over, and then that the war was back on, and then the war was over, and then it was back on, and then it was over, then it was back on. So this has been going on for a few months now. It's getting a little bit hard to keep track. I'm not going to lie. I think someone recently did the numbers, and they found that Donald Trump had stated that a deal is around the corner, about to be inked. It's all ready to go. 38 times, Chris.
38 times. That's too many. That's too many.
So it's time to talk about number 39 because Donald Trump has announced that a peace deal is imminent.
Hey guys, listen, pop your champagne corks. Peace is upon us, just around the corner for the 39th time.
Yep. And guess what, Chris? The markets rallied on the news.
Oh, no way.
Always do. Yeah. So apparently this time, though, it might be a little bit different. And I say that because apparently the Islamic Republic of Iran has not said this is some bullshit yet. Instead, they have said that there are things that still need doing, and the timing is, still up in the air. But a peace deal is not impossible.
Whoa, huge, not impossible, sweet.
Yeah, and so let me tell you about this potential peace deal, Chris. Yeah, this would involve Iran saying that they don't want to have a nuclear weapon.
Don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they're giving up. They will be giving up their quest for a nuclear weapon, Chris.
Sure.
And reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
Wow. So just giving up everything.
In exchange for this, sanctions.
It's not for nothing?
No. It would involve sanctions being lifted on Iran. And this would involve the opening of talks on the nuclear issue. So they'd have some like technical discussions on like how. Yeah, and what would happen?
No way.
And all that kind of
I'm
thing.
sorry.
Yeah. And so,
just to clarify here, they will say that we don't want nuclear weapons, but we are happy to talk about nuclear power.
Oh yes. Well, of course they are. I mean, here's the really great thing about this, Chris. The Islamic Republic of Iran are signatories to the international agreements on nuclear weapons, right?
Yeah.
Specifically.
Sure.
They are signatories to, I can't remember the name of the treaty off the top of my head, and that's absolutely the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
The NPT.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So I got there. I got there in the end. But yeah, so they're signatories to the NPT. And the great thing about the NPT, Chris, is that when you sign on to it, you are saying two things. Number one, you will not build a nuclear weapon.
Nice.
Number two, you have the right to develop nuclear power.
Right.
These are the two things that are at the heart of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And in fact, that's basically the trade-off. By signing on to the treaty, everyone says, yes, you have a right to nuclear power, to the use of peaceful nuclear technology.
Wow.
But also, you give up any move towards, any claim towards having the right to develop a nuclear weapon, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Now, there are countries that have not signed on to the NPT.
Which ones?
Oh, well, one of them was the Republic of South Africa back when it was under the days of apartheid, because in the 1970s, they never officially admitted it, but they absolutely put a shit ton of money into building a nuclear weapon. And they didn't want to give away that bit while they were doing it, right?
Sure.
The state of Israel as well doesn't officially have nukes, but come on, guy. Everyone knows they have nukes. Like, this is one of the things that everyone in
allegedly
knows. Right. Allegedly they have nuclear weapons, but no, seriously, they obviously have nuclear weapons.
Obviously,
So it's one of those things. North Korea has not signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty because they wanted to have nukes, and then they built nukes, and now they have nukes. They can't build a ship that stays upright when they put it into the ocean, but they do have nuclear weapons. So
sure. This is it keeps on getting better.
So this is the interesting thing about the Islamic Republic of Iran. They are signatories to the NPT, and they have consistently said for decades that they do not have an interest in building a nuclear weapon. They don't want nuclear weapons, but they do want nuclear power. And so they have been refining uranium for that purpose, and also some uranium that's enriched beyond the point you would need for nuclear power. And that's kind of the big difference, right? Like, if you enrich to a certain level, you can use uranium for nuclear power. It's great because you use it to produce steam, and it's a massive steam turbine. That's what nuclear power plants are.
Yes.
And then if you want to build a bomb, you need really hyper enriched uranium, like 90% enriched. They've been building theirs to like the midway level. And I think what the theory has been is this is a way of just sort of saying we could rush for a bomb if we needed to, so don't fuck with us. But also, I'm not touching you, ha 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 ha, like one of those things, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't crossed the line, ha ha, but it could.
Yeah.
So yeah. So when they say that this deal is going to involve them giving up the pursuit of a nuclear weapon, what that means, Chris, is literally no fucking change.
Yes.
This is status quo ante bullshit. Only if what the reports are saying is true, the sanctions will be lifted on them. Tens of billions of dollars will be repatriated to the Iranian system. This is going to be a massive fucking win for the Islamic Republic and a massive fucking loss for the United States. And the final proof of how fucking stupid Donald Trump is, that he ripped up the JCPOA negotiated under President Obama, and then replaced it with something far, far worse for the United States. Like, it's just incredible.
No, it's an absolute disaster. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, and the fact that he ripped it up because he didn't like that Obama had done a thing, and he has now spent the best part of a decade trying to create something quote unquote better, and has made the world collectively worse. Yep. So, I mean, and it also was talking about, I mean, this week had him talking about that there was going to be a deal, that he was going to bomb Iran, and then he was going to invade Karg Island, and then he's not going to bomb, and there's a deal. The deal is tomorrow, because the deal could potentially be, we're recording this on the 13th of June, Saturday the 13th of June, and theoretically we could have a deal, according to Trump, so hold your breath, by tomorrow on Trump's birthday, but it may not happen. So long story short, we're going to treat this like every other time that we've heard that there's going to be a deal. We'll talk about it next week. I will
literally believe it when I see it, Chris, and then probably not even then.
I know you believe it when you see the ships freely pass through the Straits of Hormuz.
You're right. That's it. That's
when because like, and it has to happen consistently for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, because even if the ships start passing through now, it's going to take a long time for us to get back to anywhere near normal.
No, that is
and we're not going to forget, and these prices are going to stay high, because why would they lower the prices? I'm sure they'll lower the prices. It's just an open market. Let's end it there, and let's take a little break, and we'll come back with the America section, which is quite lengthy. All right. Oof. So we'll be right back. And we're back.
Shall we talk about the United States of America, Chris?
Listen, we always have to. And I believe on this week of all weeks, we do need to talk about the United States because the World Cup has begun in Canada, the United States, and Mexico.
Woo!
And it is already starting off with quite a bang, even before any of that happened, because the United States of America is really pushing to the world that brown people just aren't welcome.
Yep.
It's the America banned a FIFA referee who was from Somalia for reasons that are basically you're Somalian.
That's the reason.
That guy sat in an 11-hour interview with TSA, ICE, whomever, and at the end of it said you need to go home or back to Turkey because that's where the flight was from. The Palestinian head of the FA, their Palestinian Football Association, basically the head of their soccer association, was not allowed entry into the United States. And normally the heads of all football associations are welcome to come to the World Cup as kind of a gesture. Even if you can't make it, at least you can see what it's like. America said, absolutely not. You don't have a visa. Get the hell out because we don't want you in this country. The Uzbeki team, now they're not white, but okay, I'm sorry, they're not brown. The Uzbeki team, though, apparently had their, and I think some African teams had their luggage searched on the tarmac at the airports when they landed in America. Now, I'm not hearing any of this other stuff happening in Mexico or Canada, but it's just, I think it's good to note that America got the World Cup along with Canada and Mexico before Trump was president, and I don't think we would have gotten it if he was president.
I think there's just no fucking chance in hell. Although to be fair, the guy who runs FIFA, Infantino, is just the worst. And also, let's never lose sight of the fact, Chris, that FIFA is a fantastically corrupt organization.
Oh yeah,
It's serious.
It's well known.
So I'm pretty sure that if Donald Trump had given him enough of American taxpayer money, that still FIFA would have had the World Cup in the United States, even with all of this horrificness.
And let's not forget that FIFA also spent a lot of time tickling Trump's undercarriage with the FIFA Peace Prize.
The FIFA Peace Prize, really, really well established, long-standing prize that has echoed through the ages for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was a prize specifically created just for Donald Trump. And guess what, folks? You still didn't get what you wanted because and this happens every time. And I forgot to say it as well, so I'll say it now.
Yeah,
before February 27th, the Straits of Hormuz were open, and oil was at a regular price. And anytime anyone does anything to fawn over Donald Trump, they always get stomped on. They always get run over, and he always throws you right underneath the bus. Always.
Because when you give in to him, he knows he can do anything to you. He doesn't need you anymore. You've already given in.
This is the rule now. This is how it goes.
He is Darth Vader in that scene from Empire Strikes Back.
I've changed the terms of the deal. Pray I don't change them further.
That's the one. Exactly. So you can't make a deal with them. That's all I'm saying.
So I mean, and on a personal note, I was doing a thing this morning, and somebody from not the U.S. came up to me, and she said, "Oh wow, are you embarrassed?" And I'm like, "About what?" "Oh, America, aren't you embarrassed about America?"
You're gonna have to be more specific, lady.
Yeah. And I'm like, and this is the thing. I said, "No, I'm not." And she was like, but look at all the things that are happening with the World Cup, and it's not going well. Aren't you embarrassed? And I'm like, no, I'm not embarrassed. This is part of the plan. I'm not embarrassed. I'm pissed the fuck off because this is the fascist plan to show the world that America is not open to anyone other than a certain kind of person that Donald Trump and his band of fucking fascists like. Right?
Afrikaners.
The only refugees who've been allowed in America in 2025 or 2026 have been white Afrikaners. Or white people. Are they all Afrikaners? There's like 9,000 of them.
Specifically Afrikaners, or at the very least white South Africans. The vast majority of them Afrikaners. But what's really funny, Chris, is that they're still running into all the anti-immigrant trouble because in some of the states that they've settled, the law is that if you're an immigrant, then you cannot get a driver's license until you've done like 40 hours worth of like, in-car studying with they've made it almost impossible to get a driver's license, and you can't live in America without a driver's license. So
unless you're going to New York or in the East Coast or in a big city, and I'm talking about a big city that
they went to a red state, Chris. They went to a red state.
They went to a red state, and now they can't. Yeah. And yes, it was the quote, the U.S. refugee program admitted only white South Africans in 2026. Latest data shows. So, it's not embarrassment. I'm not embarrassed for the United States. It's like this. It's part of the plan, and so the world is seeing what's happening. You are now living in real time with the rest of us. It's not an embarrassment. It's something else, and it's just like I'm fucking.
It's watching the desecration of something that you have held dear your entire life. That's not embarrassment. That's pure cold rage, Chris.
Pure cold rage. That's right.
That's pure cold rage.
She was like, where are the revolutions? Where are the people like rioting in the streets? And I'm like, first off, this is the United States, so let's calm it down. We're a huge country, so it's not. We're not Iceland. We're not Portugal. We're not freaking Ireland. We don't have the one big city where everybody can just go to.
Exactly.
And I said something else. I was just like, listen, our opportunity to do anything is in November. It always has been and always will be. And if something happens in November where the Republicans are able to stay in power, then you have a huge problem, because then that's it. That game over. But until then. We don't need to do the things that everybody else does. I mean, we have a timetable that is constitutionally mandated. The government cannot unilaterally declare when they're going to have the next election. They cannot just say, I don't like the way things are going in the legislature, so election, so I can get a better deal for myself. Yeah. You have 2 years to basically get something done, and then you have midterms. And then if you haven't been able to get what you want done in those 18 months, it's tough.
Yeah. That's
unless you get some, and so like this is what I said the night that Trump was elected, and people were pissed off at me when I said it. But I'm like, in 18 months there's going to be the midterms, and if he's done a shitty job, that's when you vote to get to stop him, because Congress is in charge of the president. The president has some power himself, but the president cannot override Congress in the same way that the Congress can really screw over the president. But if Congress doesn't use their power, that's a totally separate thing. But
exactly, and
but like that. So that's why I'm not embarrassed, because I'm almost like, it's not embarrassing. It's almost like a continuation of what America's been about for its entire existence, screwing over the small immigrant or the brown person so that some chubby white dude feels better.
I mean, it's a part of America. It's a part of America. Yeah, just not the cool part.
No, it's the hot part, oddly enough.
Yeah.
The hot, muggy, Spanish moss swinging part.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Speaking of hot, muggy, Spanish moss swinging southern parts, let's talk a little bit about Washington, D.C. specifically.
Ooh.
Let's talk about what the weather is likely to be in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Sure. And I know if you're listening to this, you may be asking, Patrick, why the fuck would I give a shit about the weather in Washington, D.C. tomorrow? What is so important there? What's going on in Washington, D.C.? And to that I say, it's Trump's birthday, and he's got a fucking gladiatorial contest for him to watch. And
it's just like Gladiator, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, because he thinks he's fucking Caesar. And so he's got his gladiators. He's got a UFC ring that he's built on the fucking South Lawn because he is trash and always has. So this fucking thing, this huge Coliseum that he's built, he's talking about keeping it up.
It's the Eiffel Tower of America now, or some bullshit. Yeah,
exactly, right. And so they were going to tear down the Eiffel Tower, but then they were like, nah, let's keep it, and maybe we'll do the same thing.
That's insane. That's not going to happen.
With the Octagon. Yeah, and it's no, like we're going to tear that fucker down if he doesn't. Is coming down on January fucking like 12th, 2029, the second a non-Trump is
22nd, January 22nd. Sorry.
January 22nd. Thank you.
Or 21st, whatever one. Anyways, moving on.
Exactly. So he's going to have this whole, thing. And the thing is, because it's an open air octagon, it's really weather dependent. And I'd just like to tell you what the Weather Channel says is likely to happen tomorrow. 50% chance of rain with severe thunderstorms.
Ooh.
So I think
severe thunderstorms. It'll be unsafe.
God's got a chance to do everyone a real solid here. That's what I'm saying. So, if God wants to do something really, really funny, tomorrow night is the perfect opportunity. So,
I
Just rain
mean,
on his parade a little bit,
if you have a chance, look it up on Wikipedia. I mean, it is just grotesque. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's something out of South Park, really. It's something out of fiction.
Yes.
That
Like, yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. And if somebody said, 20 years ago, the president's going to build a giant WWF arena or ring on
Mhm.
the front of the White House, you'd be like, well, that's dumb. But here we are. It's happening. So we're going to have to.
I, I am.
I guess we're gonna see how it goes. I mean, part of me thinks we're just gonna have to fight in the rain and the thunder, and maybe somebody will get shot. I mean, shocked by lightning, because it's a
Entirely
giant
possible.
steel cage. But
I will just say this. I will just say this.
Sure.
Like, I don't know if you ever saw Idiocracy, Chris.
I have seen Idiocracy. Yes.
Oh, good, because I would like to just point you towards the president in that movie, Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Camacho.
That's right.
Was exactly the kind of person who was created, a character who would absolutely have built a UFC fighting ring outside the White House. And it would have been a very funny moment in the film. It would have been great. And the thing is, I would now compare Donald Trump to President Camacho.
Oh, yeah.
But I won't, because President Camacho is played by Terry Crews and is therefore wonderful. And B, because honestly, and I'm not being ironic when I say this, President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Camacho was, quite frankly, a better human being than Donald Trump is.
Oh,
so
100%. Yeah. Again, fiction.
There you go.
I think we need to talk about a few other things before we get to our good news, which is quite a lot of it. But why don't we start with this, just a brief thing on just this New York Times story that has lit up the interwebs. I mean, basically, it's something that we had all heard before. But why don't you take us through just briefly what it said and the implications for the White House?
All right, you guys, it's about the Epstein files.
No way, it's back.
The news. Yes, I know. It's like it's a blast from the past. All of 3 months ago. But apparently, during the whole real blow up last year regarding the Epstein files, there were a series of meetings in the Situation Room. Where
room, which Trump didn't even use for the wars, by the way.
Well, he didn't use it for this either. Donald Trump doesn't go in the Situation Room. Apparently, he's worried that the ghost of literally every American president past will just manifest and beat the shit out of him if he goes into the Situation Room. At least that's what I assume is the case, allegedly. So there were these big meetings. Susie Wiles, the president's chief of staff, chaired these meetings. Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, a lot of high up muckety mucks, basically. Kash Patel were at these meetings. And the nature of these meetings was this. Oh, shit, this is terrifying. How do we deal with the Epstein files? Because our base is turning on us. Donald Trump is very clearly against any kind of transparency on these files, doesn't want to release anything.
For some reason.
And, we need to figure out how to deal with it. And so instead of the situation being what they said it was at the time, which was that this is all a hoax generated by the Democrats, and it's all a big nothing, and there's nothing there, and we are not worried. We are completely and totally confident. Behind the scenes, they were like, fuck. Oh, no. Now, none of that should be particularly surprising. If you're, someone who's an advanced politics knower like myself and like Chris, then you figure that of course that's what's fucking happening. Of course that's what's happening. But I think there was a lot of people in the United States media apparatus who really did somehow convince themselves that there wasn't any there. It really wasn't a big problem for Trump. It was all just kind of like a story, one of those things that happens, right? And then it goes away. Yeah. And the reality was they were spending time in the Situation Room saying, how do we deal with the story about Donald Trump abusing a child's nipples? I just, and at no point did any of them apparently say to themselves, Donald Trump is mentioned 38,000 times in the fucking Epstein files. Yeah. Maybe the problem here isn't one of optics, Yeah.
Yeah. So basically the story comes out and it's just, I think it eliminates the ability for people who aren't 100% bought into the cult to say, okay, this is obviously a big issue. It's a big problem. But as with everything, it's just another thing that's hit the wall.
Yep.
And it has created quite the stir in Washington. It has quite a stir online. But again, today is Saturday. By Tuesday, something new will have happened that will have taken our attention away from this. But the Epstein files still exist, and Trump is still all over them. Let's move on as well now to two last things before we get to the good news. I think we should start with the SpaceX IPO.
Do we have to?
I think we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but I think we have to note that Elon Musk became a trillionaire on paper yesterday. On Friday, the 12th of June, 2026, the SpaceX had an initial public offering, basically putting their stock on in public. I don't know which stock market it was on because it broke a lot of rules to do it. But they were charging 135 pounds per share, and it immediately went up to 165 pounds per share. And on paper, just not even on paper, but just kind of normal kind of punter logic, that would be that, oh, well, this guy, could be creating the first like viable space travel space cargo company, right? So if I'm getting in at 135, and and this is not financial advice, but just for knowledge, companies like Microsoft, for example, are trading at under $400 a share, and they were up as high as $500 a share last year. So this is like kind of a bargain. But if you listen to anybody who's not completely sucked into the billionaire cult, there's one thing that you have to take note here with SpaceX, and SpaceX is not a profitable company. And also they want to tie in SpaceX with AI, and AI is hyper not profitable,
extremely not profitable.
So the issue here is that you have these companies that are not profitable, and people have already put money into them, and now they're like, we need even more money, and so. How are we going to get that money? Oh, we'll have an initial public offering where we're going to ask the public, the people, to put their money into our company, which will effectively buy out and bail out all these people who have put their money in SpaceX who haven't made anything back. And so if you had put your money in, or let's say you put in $80 million or whatever on Friday, and then on Friday afternoon you took it all out, congratulations, you have $82 million now. So congratulations, right? But there'll be people who will be using it as an investment. And who knows if this is going to work out? I mean, like, unlike any other company that has been on the NASDAQ or whatever, it's not the NASDAQ, but other stock trading markets, they're not making any money. They're actively not making any money, and they're losing a shitload of money. And we're just kind of hand waving that away and saying, oh, well, Elon Musk is the modern day Tony Stark, so it's just gonna Iron Man it into existence.
Well, and this is the thing, is that so much of this has been precisely the fact that Elon Musk creates meme stocks. That's his deal. He creates meme companies, and you're absolutely right to point out the fact that AI is a massive money loser, because SpaceX was a company that was primarily about building commercial spaceflight, right? And for the record, it's what's the satellite business that they run?
Starlink.
Starlink. Thank you. Starlink is profitable. Starlink is quite a useful thing.
There are parts of it that do work,
but Starlink is nowhere near big enough to be able to base a $2 trillion company off of. Starlink has been trying to build Starship now for years. They have not gotten that fucker into orbit yet. Like 12 of them have blown up, in a row. Like, you're
talking about, the Starlink is in orbit. The satellites are floating all around us. You're talking
Starlink's
about
great. I'm talking about Starship.
The Starship. The reusable.
Exactly. It's called Starship. And they have yet to get that fucking thing working. And that needs to happen for the whole, cheap space travel thing to be possible, right? Yeah. So this is a foundational thing for the company. They haven't gotten that off the ground yet.
Not even close.
And then Elon Musk had SpaceX buy XAI.
Yeah.
It had them buy their AI industry. It had them buy Twitter. It had them buy a shit ton of otherwise unsellable fucking, cyber trucks from Tesla.
Ooh.
Like, I know, like, he's larded up this company with all these other companies that are deeply unprofitable. And I think you're right to suspect that the reason why he's going to the public with this IPO is because he cannot get the funding he needs from private capital anymore.
No.
And the thing is, these AI companies, they desperately need a massive, massive infusion from private capital, and they've run through it. So now they need to go to the stock market. And the danger here, the biggest danger, and I think we're fortunately not going to see that happen, was that a bunch of the passive index funds that most people have invested because they just make so much more sense than paying a broker to sort of pick stocks for you in day trading and shit like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so there was this talk of the index funds changing their rules. Normally, you have to be on the stock exchange for a year before the index funds will start purchasing you. They were talking about doing it immediately, which would have been forcing every investor in the stock market to just pour their money in to SpaceX, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, that is not going to happen, it looks like, which thank Christ for that. But the really interesting thing here is this. Apparently, the current investors in SpaceX can't start selling their shares yet. They can't sell out for 6 months.
Oh, the people so if you just bought your shares, right?
Yeah. So if you are one of the people who's you're a private investor, you had all this money in SpaceX, and now the IPO has happened, and now all the shares are worth a huge amount of money. If you can make it 6 months, then you can dump. And I think what we're going to see is in 6 months, exactly how serious that private capital was about this being a real company with a real opportunity to make money, and how much of it was, let's get out while the getting is good. Let's grift the hell out of the public. So 6 months, start the countdown.
That seems like a rug pull defense mechanism, because I think that a lot of people would have gotten in this to do a rug pull. That's basically get all your money out and just screw over the cost. Last thing we're going to talk about before we get to some fun stuff is there's a guys on my Facebook feed, and whatever Fox News puts out, that is what they believe for the moment. And then I started seeing pictures of the reflecting.
He's a good party man, Chris.
He's a good party man, knows how his bread is buttered. And I started seeing pictures of the reflecting pool in DC in the mall. And it's just like, oh, so beautiful. Oh, so beautiful. And as it was filling up, because it wasn't totally filled up yet, but it was slowly filling up. But the pictures are only at night, Patrick, you see. Pictures are only at night because, and I was like, well, wait until you see it during the day. What happened during the day, Patrick, after they refilled the pool? They painted the bottom American flag blue. What happened?
Well, as I understand it, Chris, they started having some trouble. Number one, it seems like the waterproof sealant coating that they put down in the American blue color, there's some bubbling going on there. There's some pinpricks going on there. There's some leakage going on there.
No.
And also a tiny little problem with algae. Yeah. Yeah, just a little bit of toxic.
The original problem?
The algae and all the problems with it. Yeah, no, it's great. Donald Trump just spent a shit ton of American tax dollars,
$15 million,
to not fix the problem by giving a bunch of that money to an untested and unvetted company.
But they were his friends.
Yeah, they were his friends. So, it's great. So he gave them a bunch of money to do a rush job, and they fucked it up. And all that money's gone to waste now. And I would be very interested to see whether or not they're going to fix those problems on their own dime. I'm not holding my breath, though.
Yeah, no. Basically, one of the issues for cleaning out the reflecting pool was that it was filled with algae, and this happens because it's a very shallow pool. Yeah. And water generates. I mean, basically, as soon as a duck lands in it, or air blows over it, it's going to have bacteria. It's going to have something that to grow. And I don't know how you fix that unless you put chlorine in it, like Florida State.
That would be how you fix it, basically.
Yeah, but at Florida State, at Westcott, in the Westcott building, there's a fountain, and the tradition every year is to jump in the fountain on your birthday. And that fountain, you could smell it from a mile away because it is filled to the brim with chlorine. I have been in the fountain. It wasn't my birthday. It was an accident. I did almost basically ruin my phone, but it was fun. and it also slopes in, so like it's
Yeah.
not shallow. It is actually quite deep.
Oh wow, seriously? Okay.
Yeah. But like that's really the only way you can deal with this. And so I don't care how much money you put into it. And so like the Parks Department was the Parks Service was saying, oh, it's algae that was from the pipes that was building up. And I'm all like, well, that doesn't change anything. Now the algae has something to grow. Now you have to pick it out as well. You haven't solved the problem. You spent $15 million and you haven't solved the problem.
Yep.
Oh wow. It's a classic Trump construction job though.
Like
So,
seriously,
yeah.
it's the writers aren't even trying, Chris. It's just lazy, lazy going back to the basics for them. So
yeah, well, but at least they got paid. But I think now that it's time for some good news. Woo!
Let's do it.
All right, in quick succession. First, the United States World Cup. Their first game was last night, and they won against Paraguay. And I know. First off, congratulations. That is totally. I didn't expect it because the America team and the America coach apparently aren't the best of friends. But America did not. I mean, they played from the highlights that I saw. I was very surprised. One of those goals, though, was an own goal from Paraguay. But America didn't wound up scoring 4 more goals. One which was disallowed because it was offside. So I mean.
Wow.
It was quite the start in the SoFi Stadium somewhere in California. Second, Scotland will be playing for the first time in over 20 years tonight at 2:00 in the morning UK time against Haiti. And I think I'm going to leave one of these to you. The Knicks. The New York Knicks.
Yes, that's right. So for those of you who have been following New York, the Knicks are in the finals. They have had a hell of a season, and they're basically they need to win 4 out of the 7 games to win. Basically, they had won 3 in a row. It was 3-0. It looked like it was going to be like Knicks done in 4. Everyone was so excited, and as we mentioned last week, Donald Trump showed up and fucked it all up, and the Knicks lost. But the Knicks came back and they played again, and this time they won. So now they only need 1 more game to win, and then they've got the whole thing, right? Which is pretty great, right? So, Knicks in 5, not as cool as Knicks in 4, but still pretty cool. But nonetheless, the interesting thing about this game was that the Knicks didn't dominate the whole game at all. In fact, they spent most of the game really far behind. They were down. How far were they down, Chris?
Something like 40 points, 20 to 40 points at the half.
Seriously. That's not great. And then they start making a comeback. They claw their way back. And I'm going to follow the description by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of the great basketball players of all time, because he had a great series of tweets basically on the subject. And like the way that he described it was so fucking cinematic, which is basically it's a 3-pointer. It's at the buzzer. It bounces off the back. It's not going to go in. The Knicks are going to lose. And then one of their players rushes and jumps up and manages to just tip the ball into the basket. Like, movies will be made about this shit. Like,
well, only if they win it out.
No, even if they lose, they're still going to have it'll still be like it'll be a bittersweet movie, Chris.
Oh, right. One of those where it's like you still tried and you still.
Exactly. Right. You left it all on the court. But I think, the Knicks are almost certainly going to win. Like, this is, they're now like 3-1.
I don't know. The next game is in San Antonio, and it was a 29-point deficit that they had to overcome at the end of the first quarter, I believe. So it was.
It's not like the Spurs are nothing. So I mean,
they're in the finals as well. So
and they're there for a reason.
Yeah, no, this is it's a big deal, and you're gonna have to wait and see. Well, I'm not from New York. I'm from Chicago, and I've already been. I was there for 2. I was there for the 6-peat, the 2 3-peats. So whatever. I've had my time. Hopefully, New York can get back on their winning streak or winning ways, which they have been not in for quite some time.
They've suffered under Trump, and now it's time for them to get their own. So, that's what I'm saying.
And speaking of Trump suffering, I think we can end on this particular note. Patrick, please relish it.
Thank you. So, as you may have heard, the Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts is one of the jewels of the Washington, D.C. sort of cultural establishment. And it's so well respected and so beloved. It's such a major American institution that Donald Trump decided several months ago that he wanted his name on it. So he had his name put on it. And now it's the Donald Trump and John F. Kennedy Memorial Center, which kind of implies that Donald Trump is dead, which I don't think he thought too much about, but, that's Donald Trump for you. Anywho, this wasn't super popular. People sued, and the judgment came down, and the judge said, no, you have to take your name off of it. What the fuck are you doing? You don't have the power to just slap your name on shit. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So the Trump administration immediately appeals. The Court of Appeals is like, no. We're not even going to put a stay on this order because A, you're going to lose, and B, you need to show that you'd suffer permanent damage if we didn't give you a stay. And no, you're taking your name off a fucking building.
Oh, no, your name's on the side of the building. And so
yeah. So,
yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So they had until, I think it was noon today, to remove Donald Trump's name from the building. And I am delighted to report that as of now, Donald Trump's name is no longer on John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts.
Wait, it's finally happened. I mean, again, the grand opening, grand closing, it's like they spent all this time. They packed the board. They
wasted a shit ton of money. They destroyed the center's ability to get anybody to fucking perform there.
Oh, yeah.
They're hemorrhaging money. Yeah. And and then the end result of it all is that Donald Trump gets his name taken off, and it's just a little fucking taste of what's going to happen to everything that man has tried to do to the United States, because he will not be forever, and when he goes, the United States will erase him from the public sphere. I am personally hoping for a full-on damnatio memoriae, like in the old Roman Republic. So, you just like knock the heads off the statue and replace them with different heads,
Well,
yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. And of course, if you haven't registered to vote to make that happen, please do. But as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And we are doctors,
not doctors.
Good night.